Hey everybody, today is Monday, August 28th, 2023. I'm Gene, and welcome to Hanging with Uncle today. Before we get started, I ask everyone please hit that subscribe button. We're really trying to grow our channel. And hit that like button, those thumbs up. Really helps us spread the word on our channel. And that bell off to the right side, that's the notification bell. If you click that, you can be notified whenever we go live or put out new content. So having said that, let's get started. I think today's topic might offend some people, and if you get offended, good, you're the intended target, you're the intended audience for this, because number one, I'm tired of the hypocrisy in government, especially when it comes to certain issues. So, people ask all the time, well, why is there so much dysfunction in Washington? Why can nothing get done? And the answer is because a small minority of people, but enough of a minority to cause chaos within the Republican Party, are acting like Pharisees. And I don't want to just point the finger at one group, because both parties are guilty of it, and I'll get to some examples to say why. So number one, well, who are the Pharisees? According to Matthew 23, if you believe in Christianity, the scribes were people who would condemn others for sin, yet continue to choose wickedness themselves. And those are the people who I want to reach this message to, because the sooner we all recognize who you are and what you stand for, the sooner that the light bulb can go on in everybody else's heads to realize there's certain people that do not need to be around the reins of power in this country. So an example of that is a Republican from Ohio, Jim Jordan. He's a prime example of what a Pharisee is. And remember, Jesus said that woe unto the scribes and Pharisees, and when he says woe, you better start recognizing what that means if you're a believer. Now, before I really get started, I know that there are some people out there that probably follow the Quran or the Torah, and if you find similarities in those passages, please feel free to leave comments, because this is important to show how much we have in common versus what we don't have in common. And what we have in common is really what's important. That's at the core of things, okay? And again, if you've heard me say it before, I know both the Bible, the book of Exodus with Moses leading, the Jews out of slavery from Egypt, and in the Quran, where, the Prophet Muhammad freed the Muslims from slavery from the Jews. So the connection taught is slavery's wrong. You wouldn't be sent salvation from it if it was a good thing. Woe unto those people. Look at the plagues that happened to the Pharaoh. Now, again, I'm not well versed in all that, so please, if you find similarities what I'm saying, please let us all know and help us educate everybody, okay? Jim Jordan has been accused of certain things while he was part of the wrestling coach team at Ohio State University. but yet has never been accountable. He's one of the biggest proponents out there screaming Hunter Biden's laptop and how much money he made using the Biden name and how wrong that is, but yet refusing to look at, Cadet Bone Spurs and his administration and the grifting that went on. For example, we all know about Jared's $2 billion deal with the Saudis right before he left the White House. Is that okay? Because I didn't see any Republican investigation into that, but they just want to look at Hunter Biden's laptop. Is that because one is a Republican, one is a Democrat? If so, then you're not trying to get the truth. You're just a hypocrite playing partisan team politics for your side, and that makes you a piece of shit, in my opinion. Okay. Another thing is that I also remember, Cadet Bone Spurs and Ivanka pitching Goya products in the Oval Office. It's okay for them to make money off of that, but heaven forbid if a Democrat does it, and we don't even know if he did or not. So, look, the hypocrisy is just out there. It's screaming in your face. Notwithstanding, Jim Jordan wants to cross the line of separation of powers by trying to interfere in state elections. He's tried it in New York with Alvin Bragg. Now he's trying it in Georgia with Fani Willis, demanding documents, and he wants to investigate it. When he was issued a lawful subpoena by the January 6th Select Committee and chose to ignore it. So there are two sets of rules that apply. If you believe there are, you're a hypocrite, because the law is the law. And if it's good for one, it's good for both. And that makes you a piece of shit, hypocrite, Pharisee, Jim Jordan, in my opinion. Okay? Another one, and this crosses party lines. Why are there laws made for thee and not for we? For example, insider trading. How often do our elected legislators make laws that affect the companies they have holdings in? Okay? Chris Collins was a Republican congressman from Buffalo, was convicted on insider trading, while he was in office, but, President Bone Spurs pardoned him. So there's been no accountability in it. And Nancy Pelosi, while she was Speaker of the House, refused to bring any legislation or even try to work to get any legislation passed banning members of Congress from doing that. Or at least, once you get elected, do like the president has to do. Make this true for all federal legislatures, that they put any assets they have in a blind trust. Now, you don't know what you have because somebody else is making investments on your behalf and doing with your money maybe things you would have done differently, but you have no say. So therefore, you cannot personally get involved in legislation that would affect any company because you don't know what's going on. And that to me sounds like more accountability for we the people with our elected officials. So, Republicans right now, and Kevin McCarthy is the Speaker of the House, and I asked him and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, are you going to get together? Are you willing to meet to get together to pass legislation in the House that prohibits members of Congress from affecting legislation on, companies they have holdings in? Or do you at least support putting them in a blind trust? Same thing goes for you in the House. Senate Majority Leader, Democrat Chuck Schumer, and Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. Are you willing to work on legislation that prevents elected members of Congress from enacting legislation based on holdings that they have? It's an easy question, and I ask that because there's a different standard. Just ask Pete Rose. It's not okay for you to bet on baseball, but it's okay for Congress to enact legislation that affects their pocketbook. You know, where's the equity in that? You guys are hypocrites. All right? Hypocrites. That's all there is to it. Every one of you that does not support that type of legislation is a hypocrite. You want to try and enforce everybody else to play by the rules while you yourself have no accountability and don't have to. Remember, that is the definition of what a Pharisee is. And it brings me to the last point, is that are we really supposed to live our lives in judgment of what other people are doing? Because how many commandments do we have? Everybody says we have 10. Look at the tablets. Moses gave them to us, right? Well, I say there's 11. And the reason I say that there's 11 is because in John, on the Sermon of the Mount, chapter 13, verse 34, he says, and quote, "A new commandment I give you, love one another as I have loved you." So, how did Jesus Christ give us examples of how he loved us? Okay, the lepers. You know, they were outcasts. So you have leprosy, it's contagious, get out of here, you know, boo, you know, you're shunned. You know, you would have had better luck in a concentration camp. But what did Jesus do? He went in there and hung out with them and comforted them and healed them. You know, that's the kind of compassion he showed us. He showed us again on the Sermon of the Mount when he turned 5 loaves and 2 fishes into a feast for everybody that showed up, and there was leftovers. And he didn't charge anybody a penny for that. That's how he showed us he loved us. Those are some examples he gave us of how he loved us. And he also told us that when someone slaps one cheek, turn the other. I know I'm paraphrasing, but turn the other cheek. And he gave us examples of that when he was crucified. He was God. He had the ability to strike everybody down. But what did he do? He turned the other cheek. That was his last act on earth when he was crucified. He turned the other cheek. So why are people so offended and want to start wars and point fingers? There's 11. It's love one another as I have loved you. So when you have, and I'm not saying you have to stop and give every person on the street money. I don't. I drive right by the panhandlers. But I do give to an organization that, in my opinion, benefits the least of my brethren. Those that cannot help themselves, that require the assistance of others just in order for them to have a chance at life. And that's who I give money to. And I'm going to leave that anonymous because that's between me and who I give it to. Okay. So that's what I do. That's for the least of my brethren, because whatever I do for the least of my brethren, I've done for him. Can you do that Or are you going to stand in judgment of somebody and point the finger and tell them they're there where they are because it's their fault? Or are you going to exercise compassion? What example were we given to love those that were in that situation? And again, I don't have the answers. These are just questions that I have when I hear people talk about, what about his laptop? Instead of looking in the mirror, well, when was it okay, when they were pitching Goya products in the Oval Office? You're a hypocrite. Shut up if you're not going to argue one versus the other. If you're just going to look at one side, shut up. I don't want to hear you. And what we can do is that when we hear people start along those conversations about they and what they are doing, turn them off and don't give them a platform to spread hate and fear. That is not the example we were given. Okay? So those are just some things I had on my mind, as we go into this week. There's important things that happen, like we know the trial is set for March 4th for Cadet Bone Spurs and his crimes he's allegedly committed for the January 6th incident. And the game is afoot. And I will be watching all the pre-trial motions. And as I see something, what's important and what we need to pay attention to, I'll let you know. But just remember to look for yourself, recognize the hypocrisy that somebody is saying. And again, I can say this because I watch everything. I am registered no party preference. I don't care about a party. I care about the people who are going to be in control of the government that I pay taxes to. It is about the issues and not a party. All right? So, again, let's get out of that sheep mentality. Pay attention to what the issues are, how they affect you, and pay attention, for example, and then I'm really going to shut up. Just look at what's happening with the issue of abortion, right? Red states, solid red states like Kansas and Kentucky and Ohio have all put ballot measures on by the people to codify a woman's right to choose in those states. But in reality, if you voted on the issues instead of picking a party, would you really have voted for the people that were trying to take those rights from you away from you in the first place? Or would you have voted for somebody that supports those rights no matter what party they belong to? I can't vote for a Democrat. No way, there's no way. We got to get out of that shit. The same thing with Republican. It's about the issues. Look at the issues and not the party. And then we won't have to have ballot measures to codify Roe in every single state, because we'll be smart enough not to elect those people into office in the first place that want to take those rights away. Think about that. Thank you very much. I appreciate your help and your support, and I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. So be safe to everybody, stay kind, and do unto others as you would have done unto you. It's really that easy.